to get their thoughts on the Andrew Mitchell story. And David Davis, a good friend of Mitchell, had plenty of those, all of them pretty hard-edged.
1 week ago, you had a man whose career had been destroyed, whose name had been introduced, and whose honour had been destroyed, and in the view of the vast majority of the public. And now people see him, all of those things are wrong, that they're effectively lies, and that he's actually the victim of certainly a collusion, maybe a conspiracy, aimed at doing him harm. So from that point of view, that's all changed. The whole thing's changed. The new evidence has sort of thrown up the fact he's a victim. Now, for the rest of us.
Before we go on to that, it should be said, you said it's the story of the official, as it were, police story has been shown to be lies. We know that lies have been told. I mean, quite big ones, vivid ones in Technicolor, but we don't know the basic story of what he's accused of doing. That hasn't been shown, certainly not now, to be.
What's interesting, because I've been struggling with this exercise for a few months, and one thing that was apparent really quite early on was that the crowd of people outside Downing Street, which was central both to the hot email, as it were, the bogus email.
And to the official log.
Central to both of them, including comments like they looked visibly shocked, is not there. Now, in a court of law, if you try to present evidence with something in the middle of it which is a clear untruth, it would taint the whole evidence. And that's effectively what's happened, both in the public mind and I suspect in legal terms too.
And Ming Campbell will know, as you all will, that when it comes to a criminal case, you don't have to demolish the prosecution, you just have to put a big dent in it.
Yeah, well, the onus of proof is on the prosecution. They must prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. But one of the elements of this which has always fascinated me was, if these allegations which are now being made prove to be true, why was it that Andrew Mitchell was singled out for this purpose? I mean, all right, it appears to be accepted that he swore, briefly lost his temper. That appears to be common ground. But why then was it that he was picked on to the extent that these allegations would suggest? I mean, that rather suggests that someone was, or there was a motive, which was, if we can't get him, we'll get someone. If we can't get someone, we'll get someone else. I mean, that's an element of this which I've never really understood.
We don't know the underpinning story in any detail, but I suspect what happened was some things were done which weren't quite right, which were sort of defensive, prevent people getting into trouble in the first place, and then it sort of grew, and then the Sun got hold of it, and then the Fed jumped on the bandwagon. I suspect there's a whole series of things that happened here. I'm not a great conspiracy theorist in these things, but I can see a whole series of steps at each point, people doing what they thought was the most sensible thing to do.
Well, just on this, let me ask you this.
At each point, though, they could have stopped. At each point, they could have said, thus far and no further.
Different people could stop and start it at different stages. At the beginning, it was just the officers on the gate. Then it became the person who sent the email. Then it became the Sun newspaper. Then it became the Federation, the Police Federation. Now, by then, the people who started the thing, or people who were the first involved, couldn't do anything about it.
So David Davis, Ming Campbell.